the people that are here in time, and also given the fact that this session is being recorded, we should get started. All good, Katie?
Great.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, leaders, and welcome, Katie. Tonight, I will keep the introduction rather short because, as you can see, we have already met Katie Wyatt. Currently, Katie is the executive director of both KidsNotes and El Sistema USA, and she was honored in the past as one of Musical America's 30 under 40 in 2013. Needless to say, in front of us today, we have the incredible luck and good fortune of having a strong and inspiring leader in the movement of music education for social transformation. In the past, and just to contextualize a little bit again, she was part of the first ever Arrow Fellows program from NEC, the New England Conservatory, and she was also director of education and community engagement for the North Carolina Symphony. She holds a bachelor's degree in viola performance and political science and a master's degree in viola performance from the Cleveland Institute of Music. For a longer bio, you can go in the respective folder to her webinar today. And Katie, I think now would be a good time to share if you have sought out any formal business education that might have informed the launching of KidsNotes.
Yes, so following the Cleveland Institute of Music, I was playing with the New World Symphony, and while with the New World Symphony, which is in Miami, I had the opportunity to attend one of the national conferences of the League of American Orchestras, and I would highly encourage all of you to take that opportunity because musicians get to attend for free. And so if you are a freelance musician or if you can claim association with any of the professional orchestras that are part of the League of American Orchestras, and that includes the New World Symphony, if you have ever been a substitute for the New World Symphony or you play with the New World Symphony, YOA, I think, is a member of the League of American Orchestras. And so you could claim just your affiliation with YOA and attend the conference, and it is a very good professional artistic administration conference. And it was there that I learned about their fellowship program, and they have a fellowship in orchestra management, which now, it used to be more really just about learning how to manage an orchestra. Now it has evolved into a leadership training program, so it's more about becoming an executive and training in all of the areas that you would need in order to be successful in artistic administration. So I won.
I think their program is called Emerging Leaders of the League of American.
Yes. And so I participated in that program, and so did the former CEO of the North Carolina Symphony, and he recruited me from the program to come to North Carolina. So that's really how I got my first job in management. And then since then, I have just kept continuing education as part of my life and have attended a number of seminars, and I'm always kind of looking for new opportunities. Some associations that I would encourage you to look into. One, of course, now is El Sistema USA. We intend to do significant training and certificate programs in teaching artist development, fundraising, resources and fundraising, board development and board and governance structure, management courses. And so I would just encourage you to look at what is to come from El Sistema USA. And then also the National Guild for Community Arts Education. That's an excellent one that I have really just discovered. A national association truly supporting social justice in the arts, and is very connected to the artistic movement, and as it is linked to social entrepreneurship, kind of what we're all learning about this year. So I would really encourage you to check that out. Others are Harvard offers an excellent executive education program and something that you could pursue as postgraduate studies. And it's week-long sessions or weekend sessions that you can apply for and get into, and they're excellent. And of course, going to Harvard is a very nice thing to put on your resume. But it also is with some of the best teachers in the world, and that's in nonprofit performance management. It's called the Harvard Nonprofit Performance Management Institute. It's excellent. A new one that I was a part of, kind of a pilot program, is the Stanford Arts Leaders Program, and that is to come. They're just developing that now. And then the Center for Creative Leadership is in North Carolina. It's in Greensboro, and is another really great just professional certificate program in creativity and creative leadership. Those are all good ones. And there are so many, but I would just encourage everyone, much like you applied for this fellowship, the YOA Global Leaders Program, to just continue keeping it as part of your life. And as you are working, I would make sure that your employer is up for continuing your professional development. So as you're thinking about negotiating a contract, or as you're starting a new job and building your own board, you'll want to put in the budget professional development for yourself.
Great. Thank you. Bradley is already saying amazing. Thank you. So now we can dive into the first session of your module.
Great. So I was really excited to learn from Jose Pedro that you're starting to make this real, that you're beginning to make some of your concepts into true activities. And I wanted to just dive in and kind of lead into what will be an assignment coming from this module. So in thinking about your idea to change the world and what you think you have to offer and something that you've been thoughtful about, and you want to make this concept real. One of the first steps is thinking about in what marketplace is this idea going to thrive. And one of the best ways to find that out is to go through a number of iterations. If some of you have read about some of the concepts of design thinking, it's all about having the big main picture is that you have the customer in mind and you have a sense of empathy with the customer. Embedded in that is taking a concept and offering it up essentially as an idea instead of a prefab solution that you have thought and you have come up with this idea that you want to see made real. And this is a real skill to develop, and what Ben Zander calls it in his Art of Possibility book, which I also encourage you all to read. It's enrolling the audience. And so you're thinking about, as performers, we really understand this concept, which is that we have an idea about this music and we're really trying to enroll the audience in our concept of this music. Similarly, when you're thinking about problem solving, or you're thinking about your invention, essentially, and whether that's a product or a festival or a curriculum or whatever, a presentation, you're trying to enroll new people and coming along in this idea. The most invested enrollment is that when you can really respond to what you're hearing back in terms of feedback on your idea, both intrinsically, so nonverbal cues, context and subtle cues around how this might change, impact in positive and negative ways in the way that you're attempting to roll this out. So that has to do with being a marketplace and then identifying an opportunity. And so as you're brainstorming and you're thinking about your ideas, one of the requirements of this assignment is going to make you take your big idea, your big concept idea, and think of at least 5 iterations of it. So that, for example, if your concept is that of an after-school program, like Kids Notes or others, think of 5 different ways that you could accomplish some of the same goals and vary the ways in which you present the solution. So maybe it is part of, maybe one way is that you, instead of it being an after-school program, you come on board with a system of schools that have an extended day, and you become a specialist, as you or your team of teachers become specialists and are hired by the schools, not by you. You're not then raising your own dollars. You essentially get hired by the schools to roll out your curriculum as a specialist as part of that extended day. You're accomplishing some of the same goals. Same, after school time during some of the most dangerous hours in America are covered. Same concept of extended learning. Same concept of dedicated practice over a multitude of days. So that's still that intensity of practice. But it's not an after-school program. It's an extended day program. And then a second way to flesh out that same idea is an after-school program. Or perhaps, can you think about it from the other side and think about it as a before-school program, and what would be some of the pros and cons of having it at 7 in the morning as opposed to having it at 4 o'clock at night. So I just, that part of the assignment is to take your ideas and truly place them in a community and start doing market research. So that is the first part of understanding the landscape and really knowing what you care about. Because in taking your idea into a community, whether it's a community or it's one school or you're just sharing it with this one other business partner that you want to engage in your idea, you will find out in your conversations with them and in the feedback you get back, what are those things, what are those concepts about the idea that you really care about more than anything else? What are your no deal maker concepts? Like, it has to be this way or it just isn't going to work. For me, with Kids Notes, there was no way that we were ever going to teach an El Sistema program for less than 4 days a week. I really wanted it to be 5 days a week. It was 5 days a week for 2 years. We found we had better attendance when we moved it to 4 days a week and extended the hours. So it's the same amount of time. It just is not coming to the same place as many days per week. But that was a deal breaker for me. I was not going to go anywhere that didn't have the availability, and also just bought in with me that the concept of intensity was important for our students. So you'll discover what are those things that you really care about. Also, I think it's important in teasing out this idea to know that there are no new ideas. Never. All of the ideas have already been thought of. Your brilliant concept has already been thought of. Wherever you're going, it is recognized that community has had whatever problem you think you've come to solve. They've had it for a really long time, and there have been a million different people who have tried to solve this problem, and I think recognize and embrace that you will be one moment in time in ending this problem. You will be one step of the cycle along the way. And it could be, if you're very lucky and very successful, that you move the needle, that you get closer to a solution. But what you'll also discover is that as soon as you jump in there, your solution causes more problems, and it will be a different issue. What we found with Kids Notes is that now we have a number of students who are 12 years old and are playing at the 7th and 8th grade level, and there are no orchestras or bands that they can play in the community except for our orchestras that are as high a level. And guess what? There's only 4 of them. And so there's not enough. We're not old enough yet to have a critical mass of students who are ready to play at that level. But we've pushed these kids past where all the other kids outside of Kids Notes are. So now they're bored, and that's a new challenge, and we have to think about this new problem. So I just think it's important to approach, and I think it helps also your communications to really approach this concept from a position of humility, that you recognize that you are one cog in a giant multitude of cogs that are trying to solve this issue and make the community better, because it's what everybody wants. So how do I identify a problem and that needs a solution? So that really occurs in this market research. So if you are able to have an idea and get pretty high in your concepts behind the idea. So say you want to have an after-school program, take it back a step and understand why you want to have an after-school program. What is it that you're really after? For me, I was after closing really not the achievement gap or safety or like race relations or crime or anything else. For me, it was opportunity gap. It was only that this one very cool, very interesting opportunity was not available to a whole massive group of kids in a part of Durham and in this community, really all across the state. So that was the solution that was the solution that I wanted to bring. It was to just offer this opportunity. But in doing my marketplace research, I didn't have a hard concept about when or where I would offer it, how I would offer it, who was going to teach it, what we were going to teach. I really found partners in the community who I could onboard with my idea around this opportunity. And then much of the success KidsNote has had has been understanding in the landscape what are those like golden nuggets, those seeds that are just ready to sprout, and all they need is a little bit of water and a little bit of love. That the history, and this is again being able to think about where you are in time in the cycle. So the history in the community where I'm working, Durham has been undergoing a revitalization in the community for a long time, and then all of a sudden there was the Harlem Children's Zone, and there was this model of the Harlem Children's Zone, and it was getting started in East Durham, and it didn't have funding yet, but like Matt Brokaw had been out there, and they were starting to look at it. But nobody really knew that this was going on unless you went into the community and just listened and started to hear back and just ask, what's the most interesting thing in education happening right now in your neighborhood? What are you, because I want to be a part of that. I want to team up with whoever is doing that and build this. Now that's also a really important concept in scaling. The best way to scale is actually not to duplicate everything yourself. The best way to scale, Starbucks is a great example. Starbucks scaled by buying out highly successful local coffee shops. They didn't try to build their own little Starbucks everywhere. They tapped into what was already very successful, and that's scaling, which is buying into enrolling a whole community all at once. So to just keep going with the analogy, there were all these people who were already really passionate about coffee in that one place, and they really liked the look and feel of it. And guess what? When they put Starbucks on there, it still kind of looked and felt the same way, and they hired the same baristas, and it was. So that's really scaling. So if you can think about it in a social venture, you want to team up with the successful education, political, socially active partners that you align with and that can advance your goals, and that you can provide a unique opportunity that is the solution, the solution to an existing problem that isn't there before. And that is the one slice of it being a new idea. You are offering into an existing landscape a different way of thinking about how these partners could all work together. And that would be new. Yeah.
Yeah, just to allow for a little bit of time to digest this that you're saying, these initial partnerships, could you tell us about your experience? How did that play out for KidsNote in particular?
Yes. So in Durham, I shared a little bit about the East Durham Children's Initiative. And also, so the East Durham Children's Initiative is a model of the Harlem Children's Zone. And it was in its first year, the same year that I launched KidsNote. And before deciding which school partners to begin with, we met with the county commissioners, excuse me, who were identifying the zone in the area and where the investments were going to be made, where it was important to be. Just a second, I just need to grab some water. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. Taking advantage of this minute, if any of you have any questions about the assignment that is due next week, then please stick around after Katie is done with her webinar and we can talk about that assignment. Okay?
Sorry, I forgot with all the talking how much you need water. So anyway, that was the landscape in Durham, and the zone was getting going, and also Durham Public Schools in the previous 5 years had significantly cut back on their music programming, but had kept a specialist in each of the schools in the county who were just attempting to cobble together music on a cart, essentially, or to offer music to all of the kids in the school, but maybe just for 30 minutes every other day. And so a good example, I don't know how many of you have been able to look at the San Diego Youth Symphony?
Yes, with Daluk. Mm-hmm. We had a case study with him in Stanford's module.
Excellent. So an interesting landscape difference and a different concept of scale. Dalug was entering a community where there was zero music education, and so he was able to then be a catalyst to returning music education to the schools. Slightly different in Durham, and now in Raleigh also. We had music education, but it was not really well respected, not a full curriculum course, and Kids Notes was able to move these teachers from being part-time, I mean, they were full-time, but the kids essentially were having a part-time experience, to having a full-time experience. And it's just a different measure of scale. We don't get nearly as much credit as Duluth gets because he went from zero to like music everywhere in all the schools. And we did a very similar thing, but obviously it's very impressive to go from nothing to something. So it was it just is in thinking about your solutions, just be mindful of the story you want to tell around that and how you frame your success. We bill our success around championing the arts educators that have been in the schools, have been devoted to our kids, and being able to elevate them so that whenever Kids Notes has recognized success, we really mirror it back on the public school music teachers where we partner. And so the schools are really who is recognized for success. So that leads really to the third concept of how to build a community and to avoid othering or a savior complex. That speaks to kind of what I was saying before, that there are no new ideas and that these communities have had these problems for a long time and have gone through many different versions of many different solutions before you came into the mix, and just thinking about your value can be in helping those involved, those who also care about what you care about, think about it in a different way, and then you together can move forward. It could be that the system in place previously is just crap, and you need to be the disruptor then at that point, and it would behoove you to start small with a pilot and go it alone, and then have some successes, and then grow, and then scale. Because you'll, as a disruptor, you'll need your own data, your own history, your own results to be able to say, listen, this is what we had here before wasn't working, and here's what I've done, and that is really successful. and you need to come on board. There are some other great El Sistema programs like that are really similar. I think Stan Thompson's actually not Play on Philly because it also is in a school and nothing like that existed before, but the concept really fits more with what Stan was trying to do at Tune Up Philly before he left. So he was trying to take an existing youth orchestra, the old youth orchestra, very storied youth orchestra, and totally change it. And it didn't work. There was some real butting of heads and some leadership differences. But it's a good case study and a good example around needing to take your idea and your solution out of an environment and not partner and really build it on your own, and then be able to demonstrate your success and show how different your approach was to the previous approach. I'd love to know if anybody has any questions about any of those things before we go on.
And for this, either if you would like to, there we have. Hi, John. Let's try your audio. We can't hear you yet.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to hear you how you've worked with an existing music provision. That's exactly what we're doing in Chime, and we're facing a little bit of a battle, for want of a better word, with the existing music service and the fact that our children are progressing really rapidly because we are 5 days a week, and they're struggling. One of our mandates is that anybody who's in the Chime program, who's in 4th or 5th grade, also has to be in the district's music service orchestra. But there's a problem in the fact that our children are way ahead of where the rest of the orchestra is. So it caused a little bit of a problem before Christmas in the fact that the kids were saying things like, "Oh, this is so easy, I don't want to be here," and then the teachers got really defensive, thinking, "Oh, well, the Chime's judging us, and they think they're leaders, they're better than us and stuff." So how did you balance that with Kids Notes to keep that relationship healthy, whilst acknowledging that your kids are maybe slightly more ahead of where they were?
Have you tried working with the music teachers to just or is there an opportunity now to kind of go back and reimagine what that partnership might look like, to just have the music teachers really build it, as opposed to just trying to fit the Chime students into what exists already? Is there, if you could go back in time or have a new opportunity now to wipe the slate clean, is there something that any really advanced student, so take Chime out of the equation, say all of a sudden they had all of these very advanced students who wanted to play with the rest of the orchestras, what would they want to get out of that? How could they help? What would that best look like? I think that might be a good way to start to just be open to, the big concept is that you guys want to work together. That's the big idea. And then can you take it back and work with the music teachers to design something that fits what they want? I would imagine, and I'm just guessing, that they would love to have more like peer How old are the kids?
Well, the ones that are in their program have to be 4th and 5th grade because their service starts at 4th grade.
4th and 5th grade. Okay. Yeah. So everybody's the same age.
Yeah.
That's great, actually, because then you can really set up a peer mentoring program where it's and I don't know, and I'm just throwing out ideas, but it would be whatever goals those music teachers have for the other kids, the non-Chime kids. What are the goals for those non-Chime kids, and how can a bunch of really great students help them achieve those goals?
Mm.
Do you know what they are? Do you know what their goals are for those other kids?
Getting them playing, I think. I mean, it's tough in the school service that we are and the area that we're in. The progress is slow. outside of our program because they're frequently not practicing, and they're sort of frustrated with the students like not taking instruments home, or when they do, not being able to practice, and all the sort of common things that happen within our city schools and music provisions. So I think they tried to do a bit of sort of peer learning stuff. It turned a little bit sour, to be honest. I mean, we're really trying to coach our kids to be young leaders, but we've only been running a year and a half, so it's still a work in progress. And a lot of the time, it just turned into sort of a power trip, really. Them saying, "Oh, I'm better than you. You need to do this and do this."
Yeah.
And it didn't really work out. So then they sort of got put into their own sort of chamber program, which was really great for them, but it wasn't really enhancing the existing music service provision. They were sort of just put to the side to do their own chamber thing, and unable because they were all doing open string work in the ensemble, and our kids are all putting all fingers down, extensions and all sorts. So
just as a thought, and I don't know if it would work. I love brainstorming, and so this is just another idea. In Kids Notes, they're not all at the same school, so it's only like 3 kids, maybe 2 to 3 kids per school orchestra, and so that's a really different vibe than like half and half. You know what I mean? So you might think about splitting it up so that it's only 2 or 3 kids per orchestra, and maybe that means that they go to different schools or something, or I don't know, or the orchestra gets divided, but changing the ratio might help. And then the other thing we do is our kids play different instruments. So I have a cellist who plays the oboe in their school orchestra, and that is awesome. He loves it. He thinks it's really fun. It's a great way to keep him engaged in Kids Notes, because then he's not just doing cello all the time, and then when he's at Kids Notes he loves his cello, and then when he's at school it's fun to play the oboe.
Very interesting, because I was sort of worried about that happening, to be honest, because I thought my whole idea that these kids are going to go in and help the orchestra, it's going to be great, and actually most of our 3rd graders going into 4th grade chose to do band instruments rather than because they acknowledged the fact that actually it would be boring to sit there and do open strings, so they wanted to take on the new challenge of doing a band. So a number of our students are actually doing that, which is a good solution. Slightly worried about them just being a kid in a candy shop and choosing different instruments all the time, but it'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's I think thinking about like sitting down with those teachers and just. I think one, admitting that you have a problem, like this is an issue, and we want to work together to do this, and we don't want to give up, and we want the kids to still do this. Yeah. What are their goals? I'd be really curious to know what they want to get out of a partnership, or just having like an influx of a lot of really great young musicians.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Katie. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Are there any other questions? Anyone that would like to jump in at this point? And if you are having trouble with audio, just let me know in the chat box and I can help. Okay. Do you, Katie, have questions for them, or would you like to continue?
Yeah, I have a question. So before we go on, our next topic is around what is the change we hope to see, and how do we create value, and what is social value, and how to measure it. And we've done a session now on logic models, and I just want to hear what you all think creates value. How do you create value? How do you know something is building value in a community, and how would you describe something having social value?
Great. And while leaders, you are thinking about these questions, we have Michelle Betancourt that would like to jump in. I think it's a question regarding something else, because she sent the message in the chat box right before. Rochelle, are you able to share your... Yeah, hi. Let's see. Give me 1 second, Rochelle. We can't hear you yet, but in one... There.
Hello? Okay.
Yes.
So my question is, sorry, it's in the middle of the night here, but my question is that what are some factors you use to decide if you should continue working to improve an already existing initiative or just breaking off and starting your own one? Like, how do you decide, or how would you give it a chance, or what are some criteria that you use?
I want to put that back on you in your life, like when you make choices about a decision or an investment or a relationship. How do you decide when it's working out or when it was a good one?
Well, in my life, I've been kind of always pushed in one direction just because of a variety of factors. So I've only had to make a few choices like that in my life. And it was always kind of like pros, cons, make a list type of clear decision. I mean, yeah. So I don't really have a lot of experience with that sort of thing.
I want to offer up a concept, which is in a book that I live my life by, which is called Good to Great. It's Jim Collins. And the concept is called, there are two things. The concept, two concepts really. This concept that we're discussing is called the flywheel concept. And in a flywheel, when you're pushing a flywheel, which is any kind of wheel with a speed generating contraption on it, as it's heavy and it's hard to get going, but the more you push it, the faster it goes. And although it is heavy, the faster it's going, the easier it is to push it. And that flywheel concept is absolutely a business concept, and it is absolutely a relationship and investment barometer concept. If in working with a partner, and I'll just go with an example, you toss out an idea, and that partner is like, oh my God, that idea is so interesting, it totally won't work, but let me tell you, this part of it and this part of it will work. Let's work on that. And you go forward, and that is successful. And then coming from that first success, the two of you together then generate other new ideas to build on that success, and you try the next iteration of your idea. That kind of flywheel concept is when you know that a partnership is positive. And the same, it's really the same financially, in education, in teaching. So think back to if you've ever taught a student something. There are some times when the student, you introduce a concept and the student immediately gets it, and from that concept then you're able to introduce another 15 concepts, and it just flies. It goes so easily, and they really get it, and it's really intrinsic in it. And it is truly that moment of human understanding, because no matter what we're doing, it's all relationships, and it's all really an empathic understanding of, I get what you're saying to me, I agree with it, and I have energy to contribute to it to move your idea forward. And even if I disagree with you, I like it that you are attempting to solve this problem because I'm invested in that problem too. And that, I think, is a key signifier if you're in the right community. So if you are thinking about, you have an innovative idea to a solution, to a problem you want to solve, and you bring it to this community, and you try a few things, and all of a sudden the community comes back to you, and they're like, we've been thinking about this for a long time, and we were trying it this totally other, different way. What do you think about that? Would you like to get involved with that? And you go try that out, and you discover that it's great. That's a community. That's a good partnership, and one you want to continue to invest in, even when they come back and they say your idea is crap. It's not working. Let me lay out all the reasons for you why it's not working. But we want to work with you, and we want you to help us think about different ways to move forward, because the overarching concept is really what you're going after. It's not your iteration of trying to solve that problem. What you want to solve is hunger, or an end to injustice, or the opportunity gap, what I was talking about. That's what you're trying to solve. And your concept may or may not work in that community. I would say when the other side of that is when you're in a community and they love what you're doing, and they just take, and there's no co-investment into your idea to further it, because guess what? Your idea is going to be old news in about 3 months. If you don't have somebody else to invest in changing it, in morphing it, in growing it, in adapting it to a changing environment, you are going to go bust. You cannot alone survive and through your own sheer force of will and work ethic push forward a solution. That it'll never be successful. The truly iterative, and that is an important word, an iterative idea, an idea that comes in as one concept in the beginning, and then through you pilot it, so maybe now is a good time to lay out the kind of 5-step process of building out an entrepreneurial idea. You've seen some of these graphs in your studies before, and it really does apply. The concept, pilot, concept, market research, pilot, feedback loop, change, your idea, new concept, market research, pilot, feedback loop, change. It's constant. And what I love about that, and what I also find exhausting about that, is that it is never done. You are always constantly kind of spiraling upwards into a further generation of your idea. And so I think in a community or with a partner, when you're working with them, if they're feeding you and this flywheel concept is really at work, you want to stay there. You want to build out all kinds of new ideas with them, and you want them to introduce you to other communities like them, because when they're having that kind of success, others have sought it out and they have begun to scale it out too. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. And I was just wondering, what's like a good trial period if you think the partnership isn't working so well? I mean, is it good to stick out like a whole school year, or like if you already know right away? I mean, because of course sometimes it also takes a little time to get in the groove. But
yeah, I think if you're open to, I think like 3 months to 6 months, and that's it. Yeah, I don't think. And honestly, if it's a really successful idea, it'll be so fast. It'll go so fast, and you need to be ready. And I feel like that's why a lot of entrepreneurs kind of take off a period of their lives, and they're not just waiting for the one idea to work out. They're trying different ideas every day. Every day it's changing. Every day they're getting a feedback until all of a sudden they hit that flywheel curve, and then it takes off. And then they have to be ready. They have to be ready to really take off with it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I just asked a question to go right off of that, having to do with the unfortunate circumstance that things aren't working. I'm dealing with this in an organization that I'm working for right now. Someone's getting fired this week, basically, and I'm just wondering how you, because I actually had to be for the first time in my life, had to be one of the people that was part of A, making the decision to let this person go, and B, telling this person. And I mean, the organization I'm working for is helping refugees in refugee camps. So it's just you feel like such an awful human letting someone go and saying, well, you can't work with us anymore, helping these refugee children. But it's just not working, pedagogically and team member wise. This person just isn't working, and I was wondering if you could offer any advice for these really, really difficult situations.
Oh, that's so tough. It is so tough. There's no other words about it, and everyone in business will say that letting someone go is the hardest thing, because it's all relationships. It's you're a human, they're a human. I'm sure you pay them. They rely on them for their livelihood. But I will say this. So I've let 2 people go this year. and they were both people that had been with us for a little while, and people that the board, the kids, the parents, the staff had all built relationships with. And first off, if you know in your gut it's not working, you should have let them go 3 months ago. It's already, like, you have already given the space, you've already given the, like, generous, shadow of the doubt, benefit of the doubt. It's already passed. So just know that, because when it's at that moment of that gut wrenching, this is painful, you've already passed. And when you open up and before then, if you're unhappy, this person isn't happy. They know that this is not working.
That's a good point.
On both sides, you want to be in a flywheel state, because, man, when something is working, it's awesome. You love coming to work. They love coming to work. All the people around them love working with them. And when those relationships are there, that those are the ones that need to be in place. And that can exist for every person, no matter what. And this person deserves it too. This person deserves to be in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. And the skills that they're bringing to you just are not the right fit for where you are in your organization. And a really basic way to think about that is to just think about your own relationships in life. I hate to make it simple, but how many times have you been so in love with someone in a moment and you thought it was like that was your person for the rest of your life when you were 12? And then, and now look at all of the different relationships that you've been through. And in all of those moments, I don't know, maybe people haven't been in as many relationships as I have, but it was, just think about, or even in a place where you really wanted to live, or in a school, or a friendship that they were like your tightest, closest friend. It's true of all relationships. And there's a right fit and a right time and a right place for everything, and that includes working relationships. Yeah. And so in letting them go, I don't know if you have already made that decision yet, or if you have already had the conversation.
Yeah, decision yes, conversation no, putting that off, but
There's some great resources online. I would go in with a script, and you know what? Oh, I don't have my book with me. There is an excellent script in a great book called Nonprofit Management to Change the World, or I'll look it up before we get off the call, but look up online and have a script. And the scripts that you'll find online are very compassionate, and they will just be a good tool for you to be able to have an honest conversation with this person without getting sidetracked and without losing face for yourself and without disrespecting them.
Yeah.
It's a way to have a very respectful conversation about I have been unhappy with your performance. Here are the reasons I've been unhappy. Here are the examples and reasons that this isn't working out. And I would not get hung up in like itemizing every single example. I think just an example would be the tension that you and I feel working together is not helpful for the organization. And you don't need to like that one day in the coffee shop, or this other day in the classroom, or this other time on the phone, or whatever. Like just the tension that exists between our working relationship is not helpful to the organization. And I want you deserve to be in a place where you can thrive, and this is not that organization at this time.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's hard. There's no way about it, and it's a great it's a rite of passage. It's a learning experience for you also. And I would just remember, so will it be for them. and I would just think about a way that you would like to be let go in the future. If somebody has to have a tough conversation with you, think about the way that you would want to have it. You wouldn't want it to be personal. It would just be about, listen, you're very talented. We hired you for a reason. You accomplished some incredible things up until this point, and now the organization has changed, and it's time. It's time for you to do a new thing.
Well, thank you. That does help a bit.
Good luck.
All right.
Yeah.
Katie, is the name of the book Managing to Change the World, the Nonprofit Manager's Guide to Getting Results?
Yes.
Great. Teresa just posted that on the chat. Thank you, Teresa. Now, perhaps coming from this conversation, so when you have to let somebody go, it's because they have lost contact or passion for the idea of value that the organization is creating.
Or it's different. Like their passion and contact is over here, and the organization's is over here.
Right. So there is a disalignment from values, right, that are being, the connection between those. So maybe we can come back to your question, which is what is value, and how does an organization provide value for a community? And I would like to see if anyone would like to jump in, hopefully more than one, so we can have an open discussion. Online learning. This is the tricky aspect of not being able to look at somebody in the eyes and bring them in. But let's give it a couple of seconds. People always jump in.
I would also like to, as part of it, to kind of tease out your thoughts. Think about the idea that your values may be different than the community's values, and how do you come to an agreement together around what creates value and what is social value.
We have Amalia and Teresa that were commenting in the chat, but it would be great, and Rochelle, if you can turn on your camera. I know that Amalia, you can only turn on your microphone, so maybe we can start a conversation going with you three. And Bridget, thanks, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, my internet is bad.
This is Amalia?
Yeah, this is Amalia.
Okay, great.
So I believe that the value of a program is based on a need that you are feeling in a community. It's very different to talk about poor communities in the States or poor communities in Colombia, where their needs are more basic. Like my underprivileged students here have a house, their parents have money to buy their clothes, but they cannot afford to learn music because it's very expensive. So we are giving them something that they cannot afford to make their quality of life better. Now in Colombia, we also have these programs, but also there's a lot of programs to fulfill just the basic needs, food and clothing and a place to live. Mm-hmm. So I think the value change depending on the community, because each community, I don't think, I would like to believe that in a community that needs water, music will be value. But if I need to choose between helping a program that is talking about music in a community that doesn't have the basic needs, I will put my money into helping the basic needs of that community, like water and food.
Given that this is a great place to start, so given our conversation so far, and say you really wanted to start a music program in a community that really needed housing, how would you begin? How would you start that conversation?
Well, that's the part that I feel I need to collaborate with people that is not musicians to start with the basic needs. although I've seen the good results in music, when kids don't have the opportunity of the basic needs, music helps them feel that they have hope and they have a future because they are worthy, even if they don't have the basic conditions in life.
Mm-hmm.
So music can help to give the person the sense of value and self-esteem.
Do you feel like also there might be some skills that in this community that just really needs help? And I'm just being very basic. Like, say that was the one thing they needed. So if we have one need, housing, in having a conversation with them, how might you approach the need for housing
Mm-hmm.
with the values and skills that learning music can bring to the table to get housing, like to accomplish their goal?
Maybe that will bring attention to the community. So if we start making their children play music, making concerts, performance, that will bring the eyes of the community, and then we can tell people, hey, these kids have a lot of talent, but they don't have a house to live. So that will reflect in helping the community.
That's a great thought, and if that's one great example of an iterative idea, and then to continue to build that idea out, you could begin measuring your impact and saying how much press did this community receive before, or how much attention did this community receive before you got involved, and then now how much attention has this community received, and is there a housing partner that you could bring to the table to merge your interests and the attention you're bringing to the community with the resources this housing partner might be able to bring to the community. And that could be the government, or it could be a private company, or it could be another nonprofit who's working in housing. I think it's a great way to think about it. And I really had no idea what you were going to say when I answered that question. I put it out there like
me neither. You make me think, so that's good.
How could you get housing for people through music? And that was a great answer. That was a great answer.
Well, you make me think, so thank you. Make me think really hard. That's good.
I think that even if she couldn't get housing through music, it would still be a worthwhile endeavor, because I mean, not everyone, you can't do everything, and you'd still be helping the community, because I think Jake wrote something, but one of the human needs besides, food, water, and shelter is also connection. I don't know if that's what that list is, but like we have psychological needs too, and music would help with that aspect. I mean, there's music in all cultures, whether people have houses or not, and yeah, you could take that approach.
It's an interesting one, and I appreciate it from an emotional point of view. Here's my little heart. But I'm also a hard numbers kind of girl. If there is a need, if a community comes to you and they want music, and they want their kids to have this experience, and I am bought into the transformative power of music. And I know that if I'm not accomplishing something that this community needs, or I'm not contributing to some of these basic needs, I think that Amalia pointed out, your goodwill and that good spirit will be exhausted. It will just not, the fire of that passion without any kind of demonstrated results won't last. And so thinking about in working iteratively with this idea, and in working and doing your market research around how your idea can really impact this area, and who knows what it's going to be. I hope that you are coming up with a whole variety of really interesting ideas, products, tools, festivals, programs, curriculums, all kinds of things. But whatever it is, really thinking through, given the landscape, how is anybody going to be able to tell what kind of difference you've made? You specifically and your idea. And that will come from, one, identifying the thing that you can contribute to, and two, in your contribution, knowing how to measure from point A to point B. So I'll just take it back to an example, this conversation around getting housing through music, and you're able to measure, you enter the community and say, I'm just totally throwing this out as a like dartboard. Nobody has a house in the community, and you come in and you teach everyone, all the kids, how to play music, and you use the concerts that the kids are playing to bring attention to the community, and you bring this housing nonprofit partner, and that partner builds one house. So from 0 houses to 1 house, that's your impact where you're measuring. And what's interesting is that you're not actually measuring how good the kids can play. You're only measuring how much energy their performing generates in building houses. So if you can think about your impact in that way, that's when you begin to have real success.
Great, thank you. Let's move on. Let's see. I know that, Rochelle, you were just feeding off of the conversation. Maybe if you would like to pose your question or an answer, the mic is yours.
Oh, can you? The question was, how do we know if we're having an impact in the community, right?
Create value. So how do you know that you are creating value?
Yeah, that was kind of one of the topics in the Oxford course. So I don't know. My idea is that it's all subjective, but if even the community perceives that you're taking an interest in them, that's already for them a value, especially if it's a community that no one cared about before. So I don't know, a marginalized part of society that no one bothered to think about, and then you're suddenly taking an interest in them already. For them, for the community, I think that's social value. And then, of course, if you start an orchestra and teach the kids to play music, then that creates social value because the kids have an active member that they can relate with other parts of society. They can give something back, either by making money with music, and they can give back to the community, or they have something to do, or there's many number of ways. But I think taking interest in the beginning is a huge step for a lot of communities.
Why?
Because I feel there's a lot of communities that people don't care about, and if you know,
they care about them. The communities care about themselves a lot.
No one from maybe the outside. So maybe I don't really want to get into any political, but maybe there's a little bit of correlation, like the Black Lives Matter. Of course, the Black people care about themselves, but they want to feel that everyone cares about them. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I am misinterpreting it. But, I mean, I care about myself, but if no one cares about me, then I feel sad. Maybe I'm explaining it badly.
Well, no, so I'm questioning.
Yeah, but for example, if there's an immigrant community,
a little bit the way, and I don't know, impoverished communities care about themselves and their kids and their land and their area and their lives a lot. They care about them.
That wasn't what I was implying. I meant that, for example.
I know, and I just wanted to tease out, just checking ourselves when our attention is somehow a gift, or is somehow just our picking up a book and reading it. You know what I mean? All of a sudden I'm enlightened, and now I'm aware of your problem, and since I'm aware of your problem...
No, that's not what I meant, but I understand. For example, if you have a refugee community in my city in Frankfurt that no one is noticing they're really struggling. Of course, they care about themselves, but as soon as then you maybe get a government program to help them specifically, that already, I think, is a big value for them, even though obviously they cared about themselves, and it doesn't, I don't know, maybe I'm just explaining everything really badly.
Just think it through. I would take it to the next level. Is it truly of value to them even if it just exists, or is it of value to them if it actually accomplishes something?
I think existing is only the first step. But because once it exists, then you can modify it so it actually helps. For example, once you're in the community, then you could, if what you're doing doesn't work, obviously that's not ideal, but then you can modify it easier, maybe, I don't know. That was just my thought.
I think certainly shared, and that truly means like your investment, my investment in an issue or in an idea is crucial to progress. So let's take your example of the refugee community. The refugee community is invested in their future and their success. They want to move. They've left a terrible situation. They want to move to a new community. They want to get in that community. They want to figure things out. They want to start new lives. They're invested. They're committed. They made this huge decision to leave. They're in. I think the most intrinsic value from an outside party engaging with it, and I know nothing about refugee politics or programming, but just from an entrepreneur's perspective, a truly successful investment from me would be recognizing and valuing the assets those refugees bring to the table, and empowering those assets into full integration into my community to come up with a jointly beneficial and really these Abreu concepts, something bigger than just me or just this group of refugees. But one side or the other alone isn't really having any forward progress or success. Does that make sense? So that just my knowledge and just my paying attention, just in this example, to these refugees without really understanding the landscape, without really doing like an asset mapping of what they have brought to the table to then move the movement, to move us and a solution to this problem together, forward together, that would be true progress.
So then you would say, for example, if you did do some kind of enterprise and it wasn't successful, would that have then not brought any value to the community?
I think in some cases it would have really hurt the community. I think there's some great, Katie Hickey just said attempts to help, especially in situations where resources like time and teachers are limited, can be seen as wasteful. I'm encountering this right now. I think there are some communities that very much resist outside influence. You definitely have to demonstrate value before coming into the community. These concepts, all of these ideas are a crash of two priorities not meeting and being able to go forward successfully. So that's really
Sí,
research.
pero tengo que cambiarle pañal. Se queda ahí.
It was a mic that was on. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, I feeding off of this is why we talk about value proposition. We enter the community putting forward value. Like, this is something that I'm putting forward. It's like an initiative that I would like to develop, and you tell me as a member of their community what's the best way of actually launching this and the best instance for this to take place is, generating value through intensive after-school education, say, in order to help something, or in order to see something happen. Like, it has to have a shape, right?
I agree, and I guess the concept that I'm hoping to introduce is that before the community and you come together with the iterated idea that then makes sense for landscape, it is not value. It is only an idea. There is nothing. There is only value when there is progress and results. And that progress doesn't have to be like a thing or like a product. It can absolutely be learning, understanding, mutual agreement, changed minds. All of those things are very, very valuable. But it has to be an iterative process, and one that is truly about. I mean, really, in a business concept, is understanding your market.
Okay, thank you for the thoughts. It's very, very interesting.
The flipped, and I think all of us go through. We're in this business because we're very passionate about the power of music to change lives, and we're all approaching this, I think, from the bottom of our hearts with the desire to do good, and we want to do good things and do good work and contribute positively to the world. And I think it just is a helpful way to think about it in an ever-changing process.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rochelle. Teresa, we saw you on for a while. Now we aren't seeing you. There. Hi.
I'd love to hear from Katie Hickey. She's got some really good thoughts.
Yeah, I ended my webcam because it seemed like the conversation was concluding, and we'd sort of already talked about some of my ideas, so that's all.
Oh, okay.
No worries. No, it's fine. It's good.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Teresa.
Yeah.
Let's see, we still have a few minutes. Katie, how would you like to go about this? Would you like to continue conversation with?
I think this is an excellent conversation. I would encourage you all to keep having it as your, and even as part of the assignment. I want you to put this conversation in context and to think about in your 5 iterations of your idea. And an important part of the assignment is that you actually do this, so that you don't just do it in your head, but you actually reach out to members of a community or target families or goals or a model of what you're trying to push out. And as part of the assignment, you can certainly frame it in, listen, I'm in this class, I'm trying out these ideas, I understand you are a member of this community. What do you think about this? Has anything like this ever been done? So I want you to reach out to 5 people or to 5 organizations or to 5, it kind of depends on your idea, but come up with 5 different iterative concepts of your ideas. And in creating those versions, in the process, I would go really fast. At the beginning, I would just really try and get whatever comes to mind and get 5 ideas out there. And then go back and look at those ideas and really think through each of them around how you would have a conversation about value with each of these ideas and how each one may or may not work for that community. And then you take a kind of a next draft to your market research, to your conversations. And you can use email, use phone, you create a little survey, whatever you'd like to do. But I would really love to see you try this concept and start trying out your ideas in your communities. So that gets to our kind of wrapping up. So how to develop a solution once the need is identified, what is disruptive innovation, and how to build teams. So in testing your pilot, we've now talked quite a bit, I think, about a feedback loop, and I think the most important thing about a feedback loop is that it is both from as you're thinking about a hierarchy of a structure, that you've got it from the receiver of the concept. So say, I'm just going to use this as an example, so we'll stick with an after-school program. You want to hear from the student, You want to hear from the teacher. You want to hear from the parent. You want to hear from your boss or whoever would be your boss, so a donor or a board member. And you want to hear from someone who is your peer. So is there somebody else who's doing something just like you out in the community, and ask them what they think about this idea? So another nonprofit, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to be a resource, and you can run your idea by me if you'd like, and I can answer as another nonprofit leader. So that's really the feedback loop, and then you take those responses and you go back to your iterative idea and you come up with the next best model of doing it, your next best draft. In developing a pilot, this will be farther down the road, but for a future, this is more towards your final project. In developing a pilot, you'll want to go through these iterations of your ideas and then come up with one and finish, and then not change it, actually. You want to, in developing the pilot, you want to say, okay, this is my test of product. This is my idea that I'm going to put out into the world to solve this problem, and here is the structure. It's going to be 4 days a week. It's going to be in these 3 schools. It's going to be with these 6 teachers. We're going to teach Suzuki Book 1. We're going to have these kinds of violins, and we're going to begin on October 1st, and we're going to go until December 15th, and we're going to try this. And you really try it, and unless you really need to change it, you keep it the same for 3 months and get lots of data, lots of feedback, lots of different ways of hearing about how this is going for everybody. And then once that 3 months has passed, then you begin, and then this is my experience, and then this is also in good theory and literature around pilot development, then you begin a super fast, rapid change. So then it's every day you start changing the concept. And this is a crucial part in building your team. So you need to, in onboarding your idea, you really need, in your organization, if you're building an organization or a program team, will really change over time. At the beginning, you need people who are very change accepting. You need people who are like, easy, go with the flow, anything, I can do that. You want me to teach cello today? Fine, no problem. That's what you need. Those are the kinds of people that you need at the beginning, because in your startup organization, things are going to be, if it's good, things will be changing so fast, because you'll be able to see, oh, if I tweak just this one tiny thing, tomorrow we can do this so much better. So that'll be an important part of building your team from the get-go. That will be both for practitioners, but also with families. I would really prepare families if you're working with kids in your idea, or if you're in any of your audiences, that you present the idea as a pilot. That this is going to be, we're going to try this way for 3 months, and then we're going to gather all of your feedback. I hope that you'll engage with me in focus groups and phone calls and meetings and surveys, and give me your feedback back. And then we're going to really start changing things. And come January, this is going to be a very different program, and we just want you to know that from the beginning. Here's what we'd like to see. I think in getting to that place, again, your marketplace research is going to be so crucial, because in that research, you're going to come to some core values that you agree on. And KidsNet's core values are diversity, empowerment, collaboration, excellence, and joy. And in those core values, no matter what I do, I can share with my families that I'm always going to do it in collaboration. So never ever is KidsNet going to go build a building somewhere. We're always going to be in the schools. That's how we're always going to operate. Empowerment. Never ever will our KidsNet teachers be from outside of the community, and nobody has ever heard of these people, and they don't look like the kids that we're serving. Always, our KidsNet teachers are going to be from the community, because for us, it's all about bringing. I did my market research, and I found a whole boatload of talent and potential, and all of these assets that really were just ready to be organized and put them into motion. So with those values, I can share with our families that this is the way I'm going to do business, and I may be teaching violin one day and cello tomorrow, but it's going to be this kind of business. And that'll be an important part of your pilot process. So pilot 3 months, feedback loop with the ways that your community is most comfortable communicating in. It may not, it may be text, it may be conversations. All of those communication mechanisms are valuable. What's most important is that you write it all down, not them. So if it's easy, if it's easier for them to just talk to you, you need to be prepared to document this feedback. How to create a differentiated solution. So John was really talking about this in his problem that he brought up. He has this interesting group of 4th and 5th graders that are coming together, and the CHIME students are much more advanced than the other 4th and 5th graders. So how can you come up with a solution that is not what CHIME does every day? Because what CHIME does every day is just like keep kicking butt, and they're going to keep advancing and going forward with those kids, and they're going to work to get those kids better all the time, advancing farther along than the other 4th and 5th graders. And the other group is just trying to put together a basic program and just engage these kids after school. How can you come up with a third solution that meets the goals of CHIME and the other 4th and 5th grade students? So the differentiated solution is really going back to what are those shared goals? What is it that you and you that can be a new way of solving this problem? That's a very early concept of a differentiated solution, but I think a good one to stop on, because you need to get just your first solutions out there first.
Great. Thank you, Katie. Do you have any questions following up? We have a couple of minutes in case you guys want to ask her any questions. We have another session with Katie next week on Monday. So if you guys think of any questions in the meantime, you can write them down. You can bring them to the next session. Molly, you have a question.
We can't hear you.
Sorry, hi. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Sorry, my roommate's practicing. You hear trumpet, sorry. So I have a question about solutions because in the program I work for, we're thinking a lot about, we're trying to expand more and more, and part of the problem with that is we're in so many different places in Baltimore working with a lot of different communities, and I keep hearing a lot of talk of standardizing our operations, standardizing our program, and I'm not sure exactly how standardized it's going to be yet, but part of me is a little concerned about that kind of standardized model, and I was wondering what you've experienced at Kids Notes with that kind of things. I know you're similar in that you're in public schools, so think about those solutions.
When the conversations around standardization, what are they talking about standardizing?
I think just aspects of program, and I'm thinking maybe both during and after school. I'm just not 100% sure. It seems like they want to go with, want to go with more of a standardized model that we can sell to schools. That might be part of it.
With the goal of just serving more kids, just getting out.
Yeah, serving more kids. Yeah, I think it's just generally serving more kids in a quicker way. Yeah.
Yeah, there are pros and cons to that. I think there are lots of standardized programs that are kind of out of the box that many teachers take on for a couple of years and try them out, and then they go to the next thing. And so I would just, my questions, and I don't have all the answers, but my questions would also be, in thinking about experiences that last, those are the ones that are really built with the community in mind and are co-created with that community. And And that's much harder than having an out-of-the-box, like, recorder karate or whatever, you know, all of the different, you know, or Suzuki violin or whatever else. There are so many great out-of-the-box models of teaching and of curriculum and of systems. You know, there's this whole, I think recorder karate is a great example. You know, it's out of the box. It has its own curriculum. You can buy it anywhere. Schools can, the whole county can sign up to do it, and they can bring all the little kids together to play recorder. But how many of those kids go on to like play recorder the rest of their life? Few, I'd say. But I understand where they're coming from, because in the desire and the push from funders to just serve tons of kids, lots more kids, standardizing is the way to go. I would say what I think about with Kids Notes are what are the values and concepts we can standardize. So, for example, one thing that we are standardizing is working in public schools, working in Title I schools, and working in public schools where there is a full-time music teacher in place, and that we will bring in a partner Kids Notes teacher to team up with that music teacher. And also standardized is that all of our classes will be held in the music rooms of all of those schools, and you have to provide transportation home for all of the kids. Now, the school has to provide transportation home for all the kids. The variables in all of those things is that sometimes the music teacher is paid by after-school funds or Title I funds. And sometimes it's not the music teacher, and it's the second grade teacher who is a really accomplished musician who just happens to be teaching second grade. And sometimes the school buses don't take all the kids home, but they in their community have had this really long tradition of working with the churches, and all the churches come by and they all pick up all the kids and they all take them home. But the concepts are the same, that like, this is what I'm bringing to the table. So for me, in thinking about standardization, it would be thinking more about what are the values and what are the structural models that are going to be the same. Not necessarily like what I'm going to teach and who's going to teach it and how I'm going to teach it, but so long as what I teach and who teaches it and how I teach it accomplishes those same values are for me what needs to be standardized.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Molly, and thanks, Katie. If we have one more question, then we could have time for one more. But if not, we still have a few things to talk about regarding assignments. So if somebody would like to jump in, this would be the time. If not, I will let Katie go, and I will talk to you about assignments. All right. If you have any other questions, please write them down for next week's session, and Katie, we look forward to it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, and now let's talk about assignments. So there are two things to talk about here. One is something that we mentioned in the first webinar, but that now it's going to make more sense given the fact that you are going on the Oxford course. So we will have 3 levels of instruction in this semester. We have the Oxford course going on, with their 2 respective assignments, which the deadlines for these assignments have been are articulated in the Oxford platform. 2, we will have the series of webinars, very much like today, and very much like all of last semester, in which there will be, for some webinars, preparatory materials. We are trying, as you can see, this semester we don't have, for the first 10 weeks of instruction, we don't have 2 seminars per week. Instead, we have 1. That is by design, because we know that the Oxford course takes a lot of time, and we want you to have the time to put the effort on both fronts. So the second level of instruction, as I mentioned, the webinars with respective preparatory materials or not. And the third level of instruction is the series of module assignments, just like last semester, but that are no longer essay-type assignments. These are more practical, hands-on assignments. The module assignments, the deadlines for these assignments can be found in the Path to Graduation document inside the academic information folder in our platform. Just to give you the heads up, Module 1 assignment is due next Monday. Module 2 assignment, the assignment that Katie was talking quite a bit about today, is due February 22nd, etc. You can refer to that document for deadlines of the prospective module assignments. And yes, very much like last semester, each module will have an assignment that is both pertinent to the module and, in the case of second semester, is pertinent to the development of your social enterprise idea. Now, I will dive into module assignment 1 to explain this and make sure that we're all on the same page. Let me pull this out. I will take questions in a second. Let me just make sure that I'm explaining the framework first. So the assignment that we have that is due next week on February 6th is called Crafting Your Final Project, Step 1. This assignment is split in 2 sections. One that is very straightforward. You just have to answer a few questions, and it's a section that is designed to provide a space for self-assessment. So there are 6 questions that we would like you to answer. Doing so should not take longer than 15 to 20 minutes. Try to answer this as honestly with yourself and as well articulately as possible. We ask you to return to your answers once you have answered all 6 questions and highlight the skills that make you stand above the rest. Okay? And then there is part 2 of that assignment, in which you have a template at the end of that section of part 2. We're asking you to fill out that template for as many as 3 prospective social enterprise ideas. Then come with your groups, your peer review groups. There is a peer review sheet in the same folder. Talk about these ideas, digest them as a group, talk about the different things that the template asks you to do. So you're going to have to describe your idea, the need that it's intended to solve, identify potential customers, and what skills and talents you possess to enable to make this idea successful. So you will do that exercise for 1 to 3 ideas. You will come to your group to discuss, and then you will come back to your template and add any feedback that you got from your group. It's not tricky, but I think it's good that we are explaining it verbally. And then the grading of this assignment will be 40% of the grading for the first 6 questions, so for part 1, and then 60% for the ideas the quality of the ideas and the writing for the second part, once you fill out the template with the feedback of your peer review group. Now, questions. Nadej, for which date is McGill assignment or calendar? But in the path of graduation it says March 27. Thank you for noting this. The McGill assignment was changed. The deadline was changed, but refer to the path to graduation that is March 27th. Thank you, Nadej. Jake, I think it would be other since the deadlines for major assignments to be found. With the rest of the assignments just like last semester. Definitely, I will do that tonight. I think you're right. We should have all that information in one place. Thanks, Jake. Most useful referred to for the last semester. Great, Teresa. Are there any questions regarding what is expected from module assignment 1 and what the deadlines are? I'm going to add this to the calendar as well right now. If not, I mean, you can always email me for any other questions. But wait, are we going to find the guidelines of the assignment in the academic folder? Academic folder? No. In the academic folder, you have both calendars, the path to graduation, and another document. But for the guidelines regarding each assignment, these can be found just like last semester in a folder within the respective module folder that is called Module Overview and Assignment. So there you're going to be able to find that, the overview of the module, of the learning that we expect to see happen in the module, through the series of webinars and the modules assignment. March 27, McGill assignment, Sabrina, yes. Rochelle, sorry. Jacqueline, do we submit a scan of the template, notes and group discussion? Jacqueline, that is not necessary. All I want is a reviewed and this is going to be for you to organize these peer review sessions and to make the best of this. The person reviewing these assignments is not going to know whether you met or not, but this is when we are appealing to the cohort. I mean, you are in together. The initiatives that you're trying to put together might have a scope of differences, from after-school programs to summer festivals in Central America. I don't know, but you will certainly gain from the experience of others. So make that happen. Maybe could there be a little more time between the due dates? This is something that you can ask Ramon for, but we believe that the 3-week period that we're envisioning should be enough in order to do these assignments. And this is why we are posting the assignments. We're shooting to post the assignments early on in the developing of the module. Unlike last semester, we added the assignments halfway through the module or at the end of the module when the module director had experienced the webinars that had taken place in the respective module. I feel like I am being very wordy, but I hope you're getting the message. For final project, is it right that we can work on the program we're working for and work on developing it? Yes, that is completely right. You can plan on an expansion of your existing program, anything that might increase the value that you're already providing as an organization. That is a possibility for sure. Oh, Rochelle, I see what you're saying. And this dives into an important concept, and that is the assignments, the Oxford assignments. You need to submit those within the Oxford platform. Those are the only assignments that you don't submit to your assignment folder. This is very important, and it's very well articulated in the platform itself. You will be able to get this just by going through the materials. It's very well articulated how to submit the assignment through their platform, because this allows them to manage the assignments in an easier way, and these assignments are graded actually by Oxford faculty, so it's an easier connection. And Sabrina, I see what Rochelle is saying. I will discuss. The thing is that the Oxford deadline of March 28 is something that we had envisioned as an alternative deadline. I'll have to reach out regarding this issue, the 27 and 28. I will send an academic update on this issue. I see what Sabrina and Rochelle are pointing out, and I will see with our partner in McGill what we can do to change that deadline. I think you're right, that should be addressed. Are there any other questions? McGill and Oxford. Thanks, Rochelle. Thank everyone for the questions. If you have any others, just shoot me an email and I'll respond within 24 hours. And we're looking forward to learning about your initiatives in your first assignment. Remember that upon completing this assignment, we will have a sense of the type of initiatives that you would be interested in creating or pursuing. And with this information, it is that we're going to try to match you up with a mentor. So it's very important that you take this first assignment seriously and that you make the best of it. Okay, it's well over the time. Have a great night.